Hey guys, so this morning I posted kind of like a general statement, basically implying that if we would have had, if Israel would have had a Sephardic prime minister or a non-Ashkenazi prime minister, then, this war would have been over on October 14, 2023. Some friends of mine asked me, who do I suggest as a candidate, as a person to be in that position. Guys, my point with that is not about any particular candidate or even person. My point is about culture and mentality. To be honest with you guys, and somebody mentioned in the comment section, look at all these Sephardi guys we've had in power in different positions of, in the army, and even we had a president, Moshe Katsav, who's Sephardi, we had Shaul Mofaz, we had these guys, we had those guys. It's true, and all those guys ended up being disappointments. Somebody mentioned the Shas party that was involved with Oslo. You're absolutely right, guys. So what I'm saying is, it's culture. The government of Israel does not represent the on-the-ground culture in Israel, a majority of which is either Sephardic traditional, with a certain mentality, yes, to take care of the enemy immediately. As soon as the enemy attacks, you have to take care of them because they understand they lived under the enemy in their countries, right? In North Africa, in Arab countries, and they understand that, the only language that's understood is force, right? Is, physical force. Physicality, getting kinetic with them, right? Appeasing them doesn't work, guys, right? So they understand that. But, they make up 50% of the country. And then the rest of the country is, Ashkenazi Jews, most of whom also understand that as well. Folks, our government does not represent, the Israeli government does not represent the people. Right? If you're telling me, look at all these guys, these Sephardi guys in the Shuk who are, chanting Bibi Melech Israel, right? Bibi King of Israel, they vote for Bibi. Rock Bibi, rock Bibi. Folks, Bibi doesn't, actually, by way of his actions and by way of the way he is, forget about that he's Ashkenazi, or whether it's Ashkenazi or Sephardi or whatever he would be, he doesn't represent these people. He doesn't represent them. Because if he did represent them, again, folks, this war would have been over. It would have been the 7-day war. Or the next 6-day war part 2. It would have been over October 14, 2023. That's when it would have been over, my friends. The government of Israel does not represent, it doesn't answer to the people of Israel. What do? They present a candidate, each party presents a candidate, and then there's like a slate, right? Do the people in the slate represent the people that voted for that particular party or candidate? Not necessarily. Folks, they don't represent the people of Israel. They don't represent the will of the people of Israel. They represent, listening to Biden when he says, don't go to Rafah, right? Eventually we went to Rafah, but after so much, pressure from within the country, right? After so many, media commentators said, listen, guys, we have to defend our country. We can't listen to, okay, it's America, whoop-de-doo, but, we can't keep listening to people who are hampering us from taking care of the problems that we have, from dealing with our enemies. Folks, my point was Sephardi, Ashkenazi. Honestly, guys, the last politician that we had who was actually in power, they allowed him temporarily to get into power, and then they removed him from power or from any kind of power, and then eventually they just made him not live. Was Rebbe Meir Kahana, and he wasn't Sephardic, right? You're absolutely right, guys. Whoever said on my comment section, he wasn't Sephardic. He was an Ashkenazi guy from Flatbush, right? But he's connected to Torah. He even said it himself. Why do you think the majority of my voters are Sephardic Jews? Because they lived under Arabs. They don't want to do it again. Folks, we have one person who he was in the government, then he wasn't, then he was, then he wasn't. His name is Moshe Feiglin. But again, you guys can see nobody's letting him near anything, right? We have a guy, Ben Gvir. Does he really do anything in terms of that? Not really. He rabble rouses. He makes normal people like us, seem crazy. He makes 80% of the country seem crazy, because that is actually the will of 80% of the country, to at the very least, take care of the problem in Gaza. Not take 2 years, or almost 2 years, take a week, maybe tops 2, right? My friends, yeah, it's true. It's not about Ashkenazi and Sephardic. It's about, does the person in power represent the will of the people of Israel? It has not been the case since probably the 60s or the 70s. Probably the 60s, really. Probably since Golda Meir, since the 70s. That's the last time the state of Israel, the people of Israel, had a person in office who represented their wills and desires, at least in dealing with our enemies. That was the last time, my friends. Since the mid-70s, since the late 70s, you can say Menachem Begin, maybe. After him, I don't really... Even Yitzhak Shamir, maybe? I don't know. Folks, we haven't had a person like that in a very long time. We haven't had a person like that in a very long time. And unfortunately, I'm including Bibi in that equation. As long as he's been prime minister, given that he's been there for a long time, and people think he's great, and people, again, these Sephardi guys who I'm talking about, vote for him. He doesn't represent them. How do you vote for a person over and over again, repeatedly, who doesn't represent your values and what you want a prime minister to do, whether it's economically or national security wise? My friends, he doesn't. I'm sorry, he does not. He answers to his, overlords outside of the country, or whatever, maybe it's blackmail, I don't know what it is, but he definitely doesn't answer to the Israeli public, I can tell you that. So the question is, who does, my friends? At this point, guys, I think only Mashiach would be the one for that one. Anybody else who tries to get near the levers of power, who represents the will of the Israeli public in any way, shape, or form, especially in a time like this, will not be allowed, or at least they won't be allowed into a high position. They won't be allowed to be the prime minister. Maybe they'll squeak in there, like Ben Gvir and Smotrich sort of kind of squeaked in a little bit here and there in some position. He's going to be, they're going to throw him a bone at best, my friends. But a serious person with, to be, who knows what to do, and who's going to be, to run for prime minister, they won't even allow him. And the minute he will try, my friends, he will be labeled this, that, and the other by the media, who of course also do not represent the will of the people, with the exception of one channel. And that's it, guys. That's all she wrote in Israel today. And so now that's why we're coming up on almost 2 years with this war. You could say, oh, what about Iran? My friends, did you see us finish off Iran? As much as Trump is pro-Israel and all the rest of it, he said, turn the planes around, and what did we do? We turned the planes around. Did you see us finishing off Iran? Finishing off the regime? So that the people over there could do, could revolt, have the guts to revolt and take charge of their own destiny? Did you see that happening? No, we didn't do it. Is it our responsibility? Whatever. X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I'm not an analyst, but the point is, guys, there's things we wanted to do, and then the moment someone says, from the outside says, jump, Bibi says, how high? Folks, it's not a representation of the people, of what the people want. We want victory. They have these placards all over. When you can go to Israel today, all over the train stations, all over the walls, Yachad Lenatzech, together to victory. Folks, it's been almost 2 years. What victory are you talking about? Are they talking about? 450 young guys? What victory? And now you're about to, give everything over to Egypt and Qatar and UAE. What victory? And we have a prime minister who's double talking about, no, but not before we defeat Hamas. Folks, what victory are you talking about? We don't have leadership, proper leadership. It doesn't represent the people of Israel. It coerces the people into what, or brainwashes them into what they should accept. That's it, folks. So yeah, you're right. It's not about Ashkenazi. It's not about Sephardi. It's just about, is there a person who understands what to do? The answer, my friends, right now, the answer is no. I'm very sorry to say. Peace.